All right. Well, I just want to start by saying, whoa, Parker's excited to be here.
Sorry about that.
The Seattle Sounders won the Western Conference final last night, and I was glued to the TV for that game. We were down 0-2 at the 75th minute. So we had 15 minutes left in the game. We're down by 2 points. And as you guys probably know, in soccer, being down by two at any point in the game, it's not looking good. They make four substitutions all in a row, fresh legs on the field. We come back and score our third goal in stoppage time with about 30 seconds left before the game's called to win the Western Conference final. We're going to the MLS Cup this Saturday night. I'm freaking pumped. I was going to wear my Sounders jersey, but it doesn't fit like it used to, so I decided not to wear it. But I'm pumped about that, even though that has nothing to do with the NFL.
Well, that's
That's
awesome.
sick, dude.
Yeah.
Good old Sounders. I feel like if I was a soccer or an MLS fan, I would. If I wasn't a Sounders fan, I'd probably hate the Sounders because they seem like they're like the Patriots. They're like always in it.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what it's like to be on the other side for soccer, but maybe. Maybe. How are your guys' weeks?
Pretty good.
Dude, yeah. Going chill. Nothing much.
Yeah,
Watch some football?
I watched some football.
Watched a little bit.
Watched the Jets blitz all out and see Henry Ruggs zoom by and catch that game-winning touchdown. I was
Jets.
I was pretty confident the Raiders had lost after they didn't convert, and I was like, "Wow, the Jets one win." There's only been three completely defeated teams in the history of the NFL, and I was like, "So that's not very much." But nope, the Jets were like, "No, we want to lose all the time." So I
And
was
the wrong coach got fired, man. Wrong coach. I
uh,
mean, when your defense does blitz like that on that play, it's fair that Greg Williams got fired, but they that's a good time. That was a good opportunity, just clean house on the coaching staff. Honestly, well, at least yeah, we know what needs to happen in New York. Still hasn't happened. It's amazing. I can't believe it.
we'll see on Black Monday after week 17 if he gets fired. If he's not fired on that day, then I don't know where the mind is of the ownership of the New York Jets.
If he doesn't get fired that Monday, someone's doing special favors for someone in that
It's
organization.
it's crazy. If they want to give Trevor Lawrence or even Sam Darnold, but I bet they draft Trevor Lawrence. If they want to give him any sort of a chance at being successful in the NFL, Adam Gase needs to go.
I agree. I think 99.999% of the population agree.
It could be. Do you think that was their best attempt to lose? Because if they win, then they're 1-11, just like the Jaguars. They might not get Trevor Lawrence.
I don't know.
It's possible. It could have been on purpose. I don't know how else you. What was it? They blitz with eight rushing the quarterback on that play.
Yeah.
On what should be prevent defense.
Maybe they were just lost in the moment. They're like, all right, we're already going to win this game, but we really got to make a statement. Let's just let's give Derek Carr the pile drive concussion protocol hit of his life. And let's send everyone to do it. And they just got greedy, and that was a really bad play call.
That's about as good a guess as anything, because that was pathetic. That was awful.
Well, I don't know. I can't remember what the tiebreakers are, but the Jaguars beat a divisional opponent, so I think that would give them. They would make the second pick.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
So, I mean, even then, they'd still technically have the first pick. They would just give them, like, if they were to win again, whoa, they might lose it.
And it's dangerous, man. You're getting rocky waters if you win a game. All right. What was your guys' most shocking outcome of the week? A single game outcome?
I would say I'm not that surprised about most of the outcomes. I wouldn't say any of them were a complete shock.
I'll say Patriots winning 45-0 over the Chargers. The outcome of who won the game isn't a shock, but 45-0 on the Chargers, that one surprises me, especially since the Patriots defense has been solid this year, but haven't exactly been, dominant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, Cam Newton, I think, only threw for 69 yards in that game, so it's not like they were putting on an offensive clinic or anything like that.
Yeah.
I'm not that shocked about it. I mean, I didn't think it would be this big of a blowout, but I thought Bill Belichick against Anthony Lynn in the past has been bad. I mean, they blew him out in the playoff game a couple years ago when they had Phillip Rivers, and I didn't think, just because they have Justin Herbert, all of a sudden it's going to be close. This was actually one where I benched Herbert on my fantasy team because I figured Derek Carr has a better chance at having a good game against the Jets, and I'm positive that Justin Herbert will have a terrible game against the Patriots. So, and I was right, but I didn't know to say that I was gonna be 45-0. I didn't think, but I did think it would be a pretty big difference. The Patriots are playing pretty good. They're 6-6. They could still make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
They could, but like you pointed out, it's not because of Cam Newton. It's in spite of Cam Newton. I mean, I'm pretty sure once Jared Stidham, who came in relief in the fourth quarter, had like 61 yards on 3 attempts and a touchdown. He had like identical stats to Cam Newton. So it's not Cam.
No, it's not.
I mean,
oh, go ahead, Thomas.
I just think it was a really good matchup for the Patriots in the sense that the Patriots have a pretty solid secondary where the Chargers rely on their passing game so much. And then as well as the Chargers struggle with their running defense. And obviously the Pats are kind of designed to be a running offense. So I think it was just a good matchup. Same thing. I didn't predict it would be an absolute blowout. But I'm really, really happy because the defense for the Patriots did great, and I started them in my fantasy league this week, and they made me like 29 points or something like that, which got me the win. So that was great.
Yeah.
I want to point out something. Obviously, I was shocked at the Seahawks loss. I think most people thought the Seahawks would win, and they didn't. But it was weird because I've, as much as I've paid attention to the Giants' defense, their defense is obviously young but they've performed pretty decently. They're a lot of times the reason the Giants have had so many close games against good teams. But man, they had the Seahawks number, and it's almost like they knew every move the Seahawks were going to make and how to offset it. So, yeah, it's just weird how the Seahawks defense is now figured out. 21 sacks since Carlos Dunlap got traded and improved the pass rush, which is first in the NFL. Secondary is better. Trey Flowers is injured, which I honestly think is a good thing. And then Shaquille Griffin is healthy, which is a good thing. But the offense, it's just like with the Seahawks, it's either the offense or the defense. You just can't get a game where everything's running well for the Seahawks. There's always something off that they have to work around or work over, and sometimes it just doesn't work out.
Yeah, sometimes it just doesn't work out. And yeah, I didn't call for the Giants to win this game. I'm surprised. But the Seahawks are kind of doing what I figured. They're kind of on that. They had the tale of two halves of a season with the Seahawks. It always is. And it feels like the second half is a bit of a letdown to the first half to some degree. So, yeah.
I don't know.
Giants.
I think it was a really bad loss, and we didn't expect it, but I don't think the Seahawks are trash because of it. I think it was just an off game, and they'll still... their schedule is easy.
Trash, man. I didn't call them trash.
Well, you're saying the rest of their season is going to be trash, but I think they're going to win every game here. Dude, have you seen their schedule? Have you seen their schedule? Yes, they're going to win out.
You just lost to the New York Giants. Like, what are you talking about schedule?
Yeah, I'm not basing the rest of the season off one day.
No, I'm not basing it off of one day either. And I'm not saying they're going to lose out. I don't think they're going to lose out either. I don't think they're going to win out. They're going to...
Really? Who do you think they're going to lose to?
I love how you point out schedule. Like, look at this schedule. How can they lose a game after they just lost to the Giants? Like, clearly you can't look at the schedule and determine the outcome. That doesn't happen.
The only game I'm nervous about is the Rams, but I still think we can beat the Rams, especially with the new energy and health the team has since the last time they faced each other.
Look, I'm not a Seahawks hater like some friends of ours, but I can't deny that Seahawks fans they're apologists. That's what I'll call it, man. Like, when your team sucks, just own up like me and Austin do and say, we sucked.
We don't suck. We're 8-4. Like, what are you talking about?
You don't suck yet, but you did suck.
Yes, we did suck balls on Sunday.
You guys could definitely lose to the Washington football team, and you could definitely lose to the 49ers. I could see either of those. Those are a coin toss for me right now.
Yeah, the Jets will let them win. And then they could lose to the Washington football team. They could lose to the Rams.
You're only saying that because the Steelers just lost to the Washington football team.
No, I'm saying that because you just lost to the Giants. Tom, do you understand that?
Oh my gosh.
You're like, what? It's impossible to imagine the 49ers, or the Washington football team beating us. They beat the Steelers and you lost to the Giants.
No, we went out.
I don't know. You'll probably lose at least one game, but I'm going to say two. 2 out of the next 4. You'll finish 10-6.
That's right. What I think. I think you'll split.
We'll see. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
You get a free win next week, so
I know.
That.
Dude, this is the stupid thing. This is the stupid thing. I know it's going to happen. We do get a free win with the Jets because they're going to try to lose. But that's also going to be the one game where on the Seahawks side of the ball, everything's going to work out perfectly. It's like, why couldn't it have worked out perfectly against the Rams or the Cardinals the first time we played? Or the freaking Giants. No, it's going to be, we're going to go out there and have a freaking amazing game, Everyone's going to be on point, fired up against the Jets.
I'll tell you why. It's because the Jets are letting them win.
No, we would win otherwise. It's just going to be, we're going to absolutely.
Everything's going to look good because everything on the Jets is going to look bad.
No. Well, yes, everything will look bad, but I'm telling you.
Do you realize that the most the Seahawks have won by all season is 13 points?
That's a lot of points, Parker. That's a lot of points.
I mean, for being an 8-4 team, I'm just kind of surprised they haven't beat a team by more than 2 scores.
Dude, we've discussed this already. It's because the Seahawks stoop down to their opponent. They're like, we just need to be 1% better than our opponent.
I know. I'm saying that's a weakness. What I'm saying is I think against the Jets could be a game. I don't think it's a blowout.
Please, no, please.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my gosh.
The Raiders were being the Raiders last week, but yeah, the Seahawks could be the Seahawks. The Seahawks could be the Raiders of the NFC. Because the Raiders all of a sudden just look like garbage.
They really do. They really do. And that was
that happened last year. They just all of a sudden December came and they just fell apart.
Yeah. Let's talk about that game. I wanted to talk about that game.
Okay.
What do you guys think?
Well,
yeah, Darren Waller.
Darren Waller was the Raiders up until the last 13 seconds of the game. And yeah, I don't know what the deal was. And if the Jets were trying to lose, I don't know why they were keeping it so competitive. So that's what kind of throws me on the, like, I don't know if they were, like, because, I mean, like, it totally blows the guise of you pretending not to tank if you call a play like that at the end.
Yeah.
It totally makes it look like you're tanking. So, like, it looked like they were trying most of the game. So, I don't know why you just all of a sudden, when you have the chance, you're up a score, and you just decide to blow it the last minute. That seems weird.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, here's the thing. I've seen the Jets play a number of times. They don't look, most of the time, they don't look that bad. On defense, they usually look pretty bad. But on offense, I mean, they certainly at times don't look great. But I have seen them, lots of times they can move the ball. They just can't finish drives a lot of the time. They have costly turnovers and things like that. Otherwise, I think there's other teams in the league that look worse. I think my Broncos on offense look worse than the Jets most of the time. And other things like that. So I'm surprised the Jets haven't won a single game, to be honest. I mean, it's losing in moments like that make you be a 0-13 team, because otherwise they should have won at least one by now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I still think Sam Darnold is a pretty good quarterback. He's just in a place that there's a lot of disconnects on that offense that makes it look worse than it actually is. And then a lot of mistakes that are made because of that too, which make it look even worse than that, if that makes sense.
All right, Austin, you haven't said the game outcome that surprised you.
The game outcome that most surprised me. Actually, let me go back and see the games, because honestly, it's a light surprise if it surprised me at all. Well, I wouldn't say that they won was a surprise, but how close it was a surprise. The Kansas City-Denver game, I would say, probably surprised me the most, because it just kind of felt like the Kansas City Chiefs were just experimenting. I don't know. It didn't look like they were trying that hard. They still beat them.
Well,
they basically gave you took 6 points off the board for them to keep it competitive almost. It was like they were
What?
trying to keep it close on purpose.
Seriously, what was that? I've never seen a touchdown catch get erased just because initially they say no, it's not a touchdown, and then you punt it so fast that
Yeah.
they aren't able to look at it and say that was completely a touchdown by Tyreek Hill.
I know. All they had to do is just like, I don't know, look at the jumbo screen for a second to make sure. I don't know why you hurry your punt team on. That makes no sense.
Because they don't
So
care.
I'm really puzzled about that. So I mean, because as the Broncos look bad, in that game, and so I'm like, okay, Kansas City, like, put them away because you can. I don't know. It was weird. It was a weird game. I would say like just the game to me was the most surprising, not the outcome of the W, but the score.
I would agree with you because watching the game, if there was no scoreboard, you'd think, wow, the Chiefs are clearly dominating this game. But the Broncos were ahead most of the game until the third quarter. So it was, I would agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was strange. But another game that we don't have to go too much into depth about because I didn't think it was that interesting of a game itself. But I don't know, Parker. Those Rams looked pretty good.
Okay, let's talk about the game.
Okay.
Yes, look, Thomas, you don't have to be that upset that your Seahawks aren't that great because your favorite team in that division, the Rams, are clearly a little bit better than I thought. So, congratulations. But look, I have a bone to pick. Maybe this is one reason I do have a bias against the Seahawks because they threw off Kyler Murray's season when they hurt his shoulder. Kyler Murray, look, for the past, it's 3 weeks now if you count the Seahawks game, has not looked the same. And the only difference is he's not running the ball anymore. And he's been popping on and off the injury reports every week where they rest him because of that shoulder because it's still just bugging him. But whatever is going on, I mean, he ran for 15 yards against the Rams. So Kyler and the Cardinals' trajectory has taken a turn for the worst since that loss. Excuse me. That was like a sneeze cough. That was weird.
I still think that injury is fake, and Kyler just couldn't handle the pressure of being a top tier team, and he's like, no, I have to pretend I'm injured because then I can blame it on something. Because it doesn't make sense.
Thomas, and
he's got
a fake injury.
He's got a shoulder bothering him, yet he's throwing more.
I mean,
I was about to say that's the most outrageous take I've heard so far on our podcast, but
okay, obviously it was sarcastic, but still, it's weird.
Wait, is it sarcastic or not? Because you said, but wait, it really is weird.
No. I don't think he's faking an injury, but I also don't understand the logic in like, hey, your quarterback shoulder's bothering him. How about you have him throw more and run less?
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with his shoulder, but it's been a stark contrast for sure since then. Even in that game, he stopped running the ball. So I don't know. The Cardinals are on a bit of a skid, and it looks like for this division, my predictions are going completely wrong. 3 losses in a row for the Cardinals. That's pretty rough.
Yeah.
But, and one thing as well, regarding Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson and the Chiefs game, Patrick Mahomes is the MVP. It's pretty much over. Maybe Aaron Rodgers. To me, those are the only 2 left.
I think Patrick Mahomes is definitely in the lead.
I've seen arguments for Aaron Rodgers, and it's close, but Patrick Mahomes, what's going for him too is that he spreads the ball around, and Yeah, and he's only thrown what, 1 pick, 2 picks.
I think
He's
it's
thrown
like
definitely
4, 3
No,
or
Aaron
4
Rodgers.
maybe.
Oh, Aaron Rodgers.
I don't think he's.
You mean?
Oh
No,
yeah, you're right. Aaron has
Patrick
4. Pat
Mahomes-
has 2.
Mahomes, I think, has 2 at the most right now, and that's good for him. To me, it's Patrick Mahomes, no doubt. And I don't remember if I talked about that on the podcast that never was or last podcast, but yeah, I mean it's Patrick Mahomes. It's not close.
Yeah. It's hard to debate for me as well that it's not Mahomes going forward. Just he doesn't really have bad games. So I mean,
Something that is good for Aaron Rodgers, but for some reason doesn't matter to MVP voters, is that the Kansas City Chiefs would make the playoffs without Mahomes, whereas the Packers probably wouldn't. Like if you were, because I mean we've seen them with Alex Smith, but if we were to put Alex Smith on the Packers, I don't. I mean, luckily right now the NFC North is, outside of Green Bay, is looking like the NFC East right now. But, I mean,
the Vikings are looking all right.
Yeah, they're kind of the same as the Seahawks, like in a worse way, that they find new problems every week. I mean, Kirk Cousins was playing really well, but for some reason, like other parts of their team have been deficient. They have a really good offense. I mean,
they have a bad defense. That's for sure.
Yeah. But I mean, they had a close one against Jacksonville this week. That they really could have easily lost. But yeah, I mean, the Alex Smith test, I would say Aaron Rodgers would win that one if either of those quarterbacks were replaced by Alex Smith. The Packers would be worse off.
Wait, is this a test that you've made? The Alex Smith test?
Yeah.
I like it. Is it because he's like the most average-ish quarterback you can think of in the league?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, here's the thing, Case. Here's something that annoys me about something. So, a lot of people talk about Tom Brady and the undefeated season, and the next year he got hurt, and Matt Castle came in, and they went 11-5, right? And they were 5 games worse with Matt Castle at quarterback. Like, see, Tom Brady's the answer. Well, here's the thing: Matt Castle sucks. What if he was replaced by Aaron Rodgers? Would that team have gone 16-0? You know, so like, it's kind of, you know, it's like we see what it's like without them. It's like, well, we see what it's like without them without a star quarterback. But I mean, obviously, you're gonna have a hole if it's not another star quarterback coming in. So you gotta, have about like a standard to hold quarterback play. And I decided it was Alex Smith just now.
Alex, it's a perfect quarterback to put in for that test. I really like that, actually. I mean, and with the Chiefs, obviously, it's easier to imagine them with Alex Smith.
Yeah, they're a wild card team, and with the possibility of getting as far as the divisional round without Patrick Mahomes. Green Bay with Alex Smith, they're 8-8.
I would say that's maybe even optimistic.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I 8-8. I could see them being as high as 8-8 for sure, though.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah. Yep. Well, Mahomes is looking good. What else is new? You know, the sky is still blue.
Right. Yeah. No, it's crazy how good Patrick Mahomes is. It's nuts.
I agree with you guys, and I'm not trying to take that much away from Patrick Mahomes, but I still do think it's like, of course he's going to win MVPs. Like, do you see what's around him? First, he's got Andy. Who's his head coach? Andy Reid. Who's his tight end? George Kittle.
Wrong
sorry.
tight end.
Um,
Travis Kelce.
Thank you, Travis Kelce. Who's his go-to wide receiver?
Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill. He's got like 2 or 3 solid running backs.
I'm gonna counter you with this. Like, Kirk Cousins has Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, and Dalvin Cook, and look at where the Vikings are at, you know. And then you got Andy Dalton, who's a starter in this league for quite a few years. He's got Ezekiel Elliott, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and he's struggling. He's not putting up the stats that Dak Prescott was with that offense. So, I mean, I get look at all the weapons, but you still got to be an elite quarterback to be able to utilize them properly and score as quickly as the Kansas City Chiefs do.
Yeah, and I agree. I think Pat Mahomes is elite, and he's definitely probably the biggest piece to the puzzle. And I think I agree with your analogy to the Vikings more because they actually have a good head coach. But that's one of the important pieces to the puzzle, and the Cowboys don't have they don't have that piece at all, I think. But yeah, in Kirk Cousins' situation, I think, it's somewhat comparable, but I think the Chiefs are just so complete offensively, and defensively they're very solid. And when your offense is that good, if your defense can just get a couple of stops a game, maybe a turnover or two, you're going to win all the time. I mean, that team itself is so well-rounded that, yeah, it's going to pump MVPs and Pro Bowlers for days.
True, but I actually it's perfect use of the Alex Smith test. Like, Alex Smith literally had all of the above weapons, including Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and he had Kareem Hunt at running back at the time, which is way better, and their running game was way better than their running game is now with Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Le'Veon Bell. And Alex Smith's name was never whispered in the MVP talk. It was even in hushed tones.
It's true.
I mean, he probably would have gotten exactly as many MVP votes as Russell Wilson gets every year. Okay, I'm done. That's the last Seahawks.
I like how Parker's like, I'm not a Seahawks hater. I'm not. But I'm going to say like 7 offensive things to all Seahawks fans right now.
I'm having too much fun with it today. I'm done though.
No,
I'll save it. You want me to keep going?
No. I'm saying you make a really good point. And still, I think at this point in the season, Patrick Mahomes definitely deserves it, because it's not only that he has that team built around him, but it's the things he does with that team and with his passing game and with his play action and his sidearm throws and stuff. I mean, that's the thing, is you have confidence to make riskier plays like that when the person at the other end of the ball is good and able to catch them and receive them, and your defense is able to make stops if you make mistakes. You know what I mean? I think a lot of it just gives Patrick Mahomes so much confidence to do and perform the way he does, and it works, and he'll get the MVP.
It works. I want to ask you guys a question, because if we can remember back to Mahomes' first season starting, I think it was by week 9 or 10, people were already saying he's a surefire Hall of Famer. And then, of course, the clap back from some of the community was, are you kidding me? Like, it's not even a season into him starting, and we're saying things that are ridiculous, like saying he might be the greatest of all time in his first season.
Yeah.
But a little bit more time has passed since then. Still, it's not even close to a full career later. It's only a couple of years. But have we seen enough? Is Patrick Mahomes a surefire Hall of Fame quarterback?
Oh, I would still say it's too early to say that, because I'm more of a Hall of Fame purist, and I think there's already people in there that shouldn't be in there. But I mean,
we'll be a Hall of Fame realist for a minute.
A Hall of Fame realist. Like, if he were to have a season-ending injury today, I don't think he'd be in there. But I mean, I think there's already people in there that shouldn't be in there. But I mean, a Hall of Fame realist, like, if he were to have a season-ending injury today, I don't think he'd be in there. But I mean, a Hall of Fame realist, like, if he were to have a season-ending injury today, or a career-ending one.
It'd have to be career-ending, yeah.
Yeah, career-ending. I mean,
Okay, then let's say this: outside of a career-ending injury,
yeah.
is he?
I mean, if he keeps having seasons like he's having this year for another 10 years, then yeah.
I mean, I think that's easy if you make that assumption.
Obviously, but I mean, like, if he, I don't know, can you imagine a scenario where Patrick Mahomes isn't throwing for at least 25 touchdowns and throwing less than 10 interceptions every year? Because if he does that for the rest of his career and doesn't even win another Super Bowl, I would say that he's in. If he's throwing for more than 25 and throwing less than 10 every year, I don't see how he's not.
I mean, if he wins another, say the Chiefs win the Super Bowl this year, back-to-back Super Bowl wins.
Oh, yeah. He's in.
That's just in right there.
Yeah, I mean, if Eli Manning off 2 Super Bowls can get in, because that's really, I mean, besides
that's a
in the
question
top
mark.
10 statistically, but only for, like, not adjusted for inflation, then sure, yeah, Patrick Mahomes is for sure in there.
What do you think, Thomas?
I'm kind of. I think the Hall of Fame is something that should be treated with the utmost respect. I think even more than a Super Bowl ring or saying you're a Super Bowl champion, I think honestly being a Hall of Famer is the greatest achievement you can achieve as an NFL football player. And there's a reason people don't get into the Hall of Fame during their career, usually not even a decade after their career. And I think a lot of it has to do with obviously outstanding performance throughout your career. It has to do with character and legacy during your career and after your career. So, there's so many people that have been in Pro Bowls, won Super Bowls, and still not made it to the Hall of Fame. And some not even close. So I think the Hall of Fame is the greatest achievement. And I don't think, obviously I think Patrick Mahomes is on track. But we could have said Carson Wentz was on track a couple years ago too. So that's the thing. Whether it doesn't have to be a career-ending injury, especially for a quarterback, your career can be a long time. And crap happens, and we're literally witnessing one player go through that crap right now. So, yeah, he's on track for the Hall of Fame, most definitely.
I would have to say I can't, outside of obviously a career-ending injury, which you have to add that disclaimer because anyone can have that happen. Outside of that happening, it's near impossible for me to imagine at this point that he doesn't make it. Because here's the comparison of what I think Aaron Rodgers is at this point. What Patrick Mahomes is at this point. My mind got ahead of itself. It's basically Aaron Rodgers being coached by Bill Belichick because he has the skills and talent. I mean, for a while we saw Tom Brady winning year after year, but Aaron Rodgers seemingly more talented, and all the time is, whoa, what if Aaron Rodgers was on the Patriots? How dominant would they be then? That's basically what we have with the Chiefs. We have the most talented quarterback in the league with arguably the best head coach in the league. I mean,
I don't even think it's arguably. He is the best head coach in the league right now.
And
I would say it's arguable, but
it's arguable, but it's even if he's not the best, you can't take him out of that conversation at all. He's definitely in the upper echelon. So when you mix those two things like that, it's hard to imagine. And you're right. There's some players who play good, but they're not. And later on, things change, like Carson Wentz. But the difference is we've seen not one season, not 2 seasons. It's since Patrick Mahomes became a starter in this league until now. It's been nothing but sheer greatness, not just good. It's been incredible.
Yeah.
So
And
that's a sizable body work.
And I really do think the Kansas City Chiefs are probably the next dynasty. Just because I think they have enough big heads in the front and back office in that organization. They're not going to let go of what they have. So I think they'll make good moves. They'll have good drafts, and they'll stay dominant. And if they stay dominant, yeah, nothing's changing. At least not anytime soon.
I think I really liked your take, Thomas, because yeah, it is reserved for the the best of the best. And yeah, I mean, as of right now, like if he would retire, let's say he just retired and even have a career-ending injury next year, like I would have to hold off on the Hall of Fame speak. But yeah, I stand with Parker. Like if he just, like I was saying, if he just plays how he's been playing, the way we've seen him for the next 10 years, or even if it's just like for the next 5 years, he only has an 8-year career. There have been players that have, like Terrell Davis, didn't have a very long career, and he made it into the Hall of Fame. So, just because he did something amazing. And yeah, it's hard to imagine that Patrick Mahomes will take such a hard nosedive into terrible that he wouldn't make into the Hall of Fame. And considering he's making $40 million a year right now, and they signed
a decade-long contract.
Yeah, so he's with the Chiefs, and they signed their best pass rusher to a huge deal that he'll be there for a while. And they still have kept pretty much the entire offense that they had last year. And the thing that's different between Andy Reid and Bill Belichick is Andy Reid, is more personable, and I don't think players want to leave Kansas City. They love playing with Patrick Mahomes, and they love playing for Andy Reid, whereas it's a little harder to play with Bill Belichick, play for him. And Bill Belichick, would trade you or not re-sign you in a heartbeat without losing a wink of sleep over it. Whereas Andy Reid is a little bit different in that way. So it's really attractive to free agents and the people that they already have that they want to stay.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I can honestly say the only thing I like about the Chiefs being a dominant team, besides the fact that I do like Andy Reid. I mean, I like him. I would like him to be the Broncos coach. That would be great. But I think it's kind of cool that we have a dominant, likely dynasty in such a small market as Kansas City. I think that's one of the cool things about the NFL is we can have a team come out of, a small market and be dominant, just like Green Bay Packers, something like that, where you don't get that as much in other leagues, like, obviously the NBA, MLB, lots of the time it's the big markets that produce better teams. So that's something that's special about the NFL to me.
I have a question. Yeah. Do you guys think that, like, first off, do we think that kind of the NFL as a league is just going to inflate over the next 10 years, like most things do? Because the point I'm trying to get to is if the NFL continues to inflate, monetarily, the sport grows, and it is growing pretty rapidly to other countries in the world are paying more attention to the NFL, more money's in it. Do you think it's something where cap space is going to ever be increased as well? Because the trend right now is teams are usually the quarterback is just getting so much money, and it hurts the cap space and hurts the contracts of almost the rest of the team in some situations where it's fine now. But I think if that becomes an NFL trend, it would be bad for the NFL. Do you think that's a possibility of cap space just increasing so quarterbacks can still get their massive deals? And
the cap space is increased almost every year, actually. The salary cap typically goes up year after year.
Yeah, but it's pretty incremental. I'm asking, like, do you think there's ever going to be a major jump in cap space so
Well,
teams
from
can
what I
afford, to keep more players happy?
from what I've heard is that because of the COVID year and revenue being down, the cap might go down this year because there's going to be a new CBA, I think, coming up this year or something. But to answer your question, I don't know, because it's true that the cap space generally has been increasing every year. But I think the quarterback value is rising faster. But and what I can see happening is, because I feel like it used to be not that long ago where it was two, maybe three quarterbacks a year, and like that was like at the most people would be excited about coming into the league. And now there's possibility that there might be five quarterbacks taken in the first round this coming year, and there were five that were taken in 2018, and there was the big three that we all remember from last year: Burrow, Herbert, and Tua. What I can see happening is like a lot of talent going to waste, honestly, because the actual talent coming in from college football has never been better, and like receivers have never been more abundant. So many pass rushers have never been more abundant that are coming into the league, and some of them are busts. What I'm surprised is like a secondary league hasn't been successful of late, like a European league, or they had
XFL.
the XFL, what was the other one? Start with an A. That was there for a while.
Oh, the AFL.
Yeah. Well, was that what it was called?
I think.
No, it was like
no.
It was like the AAF or something. AFL.
Maybe. Well, that's the old. It was the AFL and the NFL.
Yeah, back in the day. I'm just surprised, like with the exuberant amount of talent that's coming out of college football, that there could be like another league somewhere that hasn't been successful yet. I find that strange.
Oh, you mean given the caps? Because enough players, there's not enough space in the NFL for all these players. Therefore, there's another league
and there's not enough cap for them either. And so, they could be making more. They come out and they're talented enough to play in the NFL. There's not enough room for them. Mm-hmm. So what I'm really surprised is that none of those leagues have been successful, because I feel like a lot of people want to watch them. Yeah. I don't know if it's the NFL trying to drown them out or something, but I mean, the NBA is thriving on other leagues, the G League, the European League, all sorts of foreign leagues. And the NFL is like, we stick to college football. That's our only development league that we have.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty true. Yeah, I mean, I wonder about that as well. I wouldn't be surprised if lots of those players you're talking about, like, prefer to be on the practice squad of an NFL team than go to the, play in Canada or, or XFL or something like that. I mean,
I think
that's the only.
I think that's a really good point that both of you guys make. And, looking at it in a more broader sense, long term, the NFL could expand. They could have expansion teams. And a lot like the NBA has Toronto, a Canadian team. Obviously, Canada has its own basketball leagues, but they're absolute trash, kind of like Canada has its own football league, and it's absolute trash. But, Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, those cities, I bet if you even took all the best talent from the Canadian Football League and put it all in one team, and then, gave it a little bit of juice from college and draft and stuff, it would be a serviceable football team. Obviously, that would screw up with schedules. Things would have to change, divisions. It's almost like, well, one thing I like about the MLS, because I obviously am a Sounders fan and I follow the MLS, they have one or two expansion teams a year at this point. And it's because, 10 years ago, there were only like 14 teams in the league, which is very, very few. But what they do is every year there's one or two expansion teams. and those teams are given certain picks in the draft. It just goes to the new expansion teams, and they're also they kind of get like first pick on free agents to a certain degree every year. And it's just something that, it's not like a surprise, like, hey, surprise, this year expansion teams get first pick on free agents. It's more, every year that they're adding teams, everyone expects it. They work around it, and it works really well because it makes it so those teams don't come into the league and they're just absolute trash. I mean, Nashville got a team last year and they made it to the playoffs this year. Minnesota, same thing, made it to the Western Conference Championship this year, and they're just 2 or 3 years old. So I can see the NFL doing an expansion, but it's also like, I don't know, the only country I can think of that likes American football enough would probably be England, just because we already have games there every season. But it's just like, is there enough to support another league? Like, what would you guys rather see, expansion teams or an alternate league, whether it's in the U.S. or in Europe?
To be honest, I think there's, and this is probably the reason why it hasn't happened, I think there's significant barriers to both that are a little bit unique to the NFL. For one, an expansion team, aside from the fact that I think there is a sizable amount of pushback to that idea, both from fans of the league and from ownership, because a lot of people really like where the NFL is at and has been for nearly 2 decades, or I think just about 2 decades is when the Texans were added. And a perfect 32 teams. Everyone really liked the playoff structure. That being said, this is the first year in a long time where we've seen a significant change to the playoffs, so that could be a precursor to that. But on the other end, with ownership, there's things in the NFL such as revenue sharing between the teams and other things that as well probably add a pretty sizable barrier to adding a whole nother team, unless it proved a huge addition to their revenue increasing. So I don't know. I agree with you. If there were an expansion team, UK feels like it. It could be Canada as well. I think both of those are markets that have at least enough interest. I mean, I know that besides the UK, Mexico is usually the go-to foreign game. I think, I don't know, it just kind of feels like that's less likely, though, just for, I don't know, just, I guess, market change of culture, whatever you would say about that. But I don't know. I don't see anything happening immediately. I know the NFL says they're very interested in expanding to foreign markets, to foreign places, but I don't see it happening anytime in the next 5 years as far as a new team. And an expansion league, I just don't know if there's enough interest in these markets for an entire league is the issue with that.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. I think an expansion team is more likely than a league. But think about it. If the UK got an NFL team, every NFL fan in the UK would become a fan of that team. So it would really probably be one of the most popular teams in the NFL, numbers wise on a fan base, which would add a considerable amount of, league revenue. And same with Canada. I mean, they have their own league, but they, it's kind of like they know the NFL is better. There's more skill in it. Most of them watch the NFL rather than the Canadian Football League. If Canada and one of their bordering cities got an NFL team, so many Canadian football fans would just become a fan of that team and buy their jerseys, go to their games, pay attention. I think that's what would happen, and it would just have to be at that level. Same thing 5 or 10 years from now, where it would just increase, revenue share, overall revenue. It would just have to work out mathematically. But I think Austin's right. First off, there's so much wasted talent. But second off, there's just the league's going to grow. The population's going to grow. Money's going to inflate. It would just make sense that there's an expansion of some sort at some point.
Yeah, I think I mean expansion's possible, but yeah, I agree with Parker that it's probably a ways away. But the difference between the NFL and the MLS is the MLS is a lot younger, and when the NFL was a young league, I mean, in the
Yeah.
70s we saw a ton of expansion teams. In the 90s there were two, three expansion. Well, I mean technically three, and then 2002 came and then they balanced out the league and all that. And I think it's just now like the NFL is more a mature league and set in its ways, and the money pool is way bigger. There's a lot more money in the NFL right now than the MLS, and so the MLS has a lot more flexibility to figure out what it is right now
Mm-hmm.
before because it's not as established in the United States as the NFL is. And I think it's more likely that a European league would happen because it's already existed, um, and it was pretty successful. There were I think there were like 8 teams in the European League, and Kurt Warner played in it, and lots of there was talented people that played in it, and I don't think like the NFL has to worry about those leagues beating it because the AFL ended up not beating it and ended up just joining it. The USFL was around for a while. Steve Young played in it. Warren Moon played in it. Reggie White played in it. It was really successful. The only thing was that the USFL didn't manage money very well, and it collapsed money-wise, and so it stopped existing. But all the NFL needs is just to have just something on the side that they know could never beat it,
Mm-hmm.
and so that they can keep an eye on talent that they otherwise probably would miss.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's more likely and the better option for the NFL is to have some sort of other supplemental league where these players that played in college and weren't paid, but they're definitely talented enough to play in the NFL. They just weren't put in the right situation at first, could thrive and show their stuff to kind of reignite their careers. I think that's the best option for the NFL.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just complicated because in the end, these leagues are businesses, and there's like a reason that the Raiders went from Oakland to Las Vegas. It's because there's a lack of fans in Oakland. There's a lack of monetary support. Was the major reason for that, and same with like St. Louis going to LA. It was bought and sold for a profit kind of thing. So you couldn't just expand and be like, oh, you know, I don't know. I'm trying to think of some city that doesn't have an NFL team in the U.S. It's not like, oh, Oakland's gonna have an NFL team again, kind of thing.
Right.
So it would have to be something out of country at this point, I think.
Yeah, I can see that. And I mean, if they want to make it more global, Europe's the place. And they had a league there. And I don't know why it's not there anymore because it was doing actually pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mean, Europe would be the place, I think, if they were to do that.
Yeah, because the thing with like basketball has so many leagues that work. It's because the teams are 5 people and they're not absolutely destroyed week in week out like football. Football, it's such a large organization, and recovery time and injuries, it's so different, which is why it doesn't work. But yeah, I think the problem with it being overseas in Europe is if it's really looked at or treated as a development league for the NFL, it's so far away. There's such a distance. Obviously it's possible it's done in soccer, but it's hard to keep a close eye on things.
Yeah, NFL, luckily they got oodles of money. They can get by with the plane tickets. I don't know. I definitely, for myself, I find myself more in that camp of people where like I actually really like the NFL as it is.
I do too. Like, I'm not saying we need one, but
yeah. I mean, I actually was not for the playoff changes when I heard they were expanding it to 7 teams this year, and I think eventually it'll be 8 teams. And then they also approved the expansion of the regular season, right? One more regular season game, not starting this year, but I think it's next year. I'd have to check that out. I mean, getting more games is cool, but to me, I really felt like everything was good. So I don't know. Maybe that's just me being not wanting to change. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm sure things would be great if they found a way to do it. Although it's hard to think. I mean, two conferences, 4 divisions each, 4 teams in each division. You throw 2 teams in there, you're like, what the freak are we gonna do? You know, like.
I know. There's so many people already complaining. It's unfair. The only a winning team or a team that has a losing record shouldn't win the division, make the playoffs. But if you expand it to 8, they're gonna make the playoffs anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So to 8 teams per conference, and I think like NFL fans or just any sports fans in general, their memories are so short. It's like, I mean, the league pre-2002 was a mess division-wise. It was crazy. Like the Falcons played in the NFC West. Like, so, and yeah, I like the league the way it is. I can see, there's just so much quarterback talent, but there's only 32 starting spots. And so it gets to a point where once everyone's found their quarterback, which, there's some organizations that think it's the quarterback the problem, but it's not. But that is just, it's just going to leave a lot of really talented players that could have made millions not making millions because there's not enough room for them.
That's true. It's true. And coming back to that, the salary cap question that Thomas posed, this isn't directly related to that, but another thing that was brought up in this last collective bargaining agreement talk that players want but hasn't happened yet is, as far as quarterbacks and stuff making oodles of money, lots of them are calling for, instead of getting a hard number, it's actually a percentage of the salary cap, so that as that cap goes up every year, their money goes up every year. That's something they want. That's definitely converting it more to a player-first league in my mind. Which is, obviously they're players. They want more money. They want it to be that way, and it's kind of going that direction more like the NBA. I feel like where, we see massive contracts in the NBA that, from players that aren't. Not all of them are superstars, and they get money that most NFL players, aside from the very best, would really want, even great players. So, I don't know. It's an interesting discussion, everything I think we talked about. It's food for thought. We'll see what happens, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the big thing is just the NFL is the most intricate, complicated league that it's pretty resistant to change just in the way it's set up and made.
Yeah. In the words of Dave from Hot Rod,
yes.
He who is resistant to change is destined to perish. So why don't you try opening up that mind of yours?
I don't like cherry. It upsets my stomach. Dude, I've like 3 times I wanted to say that quote while you and Parker were talking, but I didn't want to ruin the...
I was thinking about it too, and I was like, all right, this is the moment.
Yeah.
But I am Rico, my mind is resistant to change. I really, like, the NFL is at peak form right now, but it can only, if you're not moving forward, you're moving backward. So, it can't stay like this forever, which is tough. My only hope is it can only become more perfect from where it is now, and I hope that we keep seeing great NFL. I love this league so much. I see it ruin itself.
Absolutely, I totally agree. But one thing I want to, because you're right, if you don't change in certain ways and adapt, you lose. But I think lots of people, point to the NBA for all the things we've talked about with propping up players, expanding, making changes. Yet it's been well documented that their finals this year, for whatever reasons they might be, were not getting a lot of views. And the NFL regular season games were getting more watches than the NBA playoffs. So that's another side to this thing. It's kind of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The NFL is still the most popular league in this country. I think as a single league, it's the most earning league in the world, I want to say. I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm always scared to say that because I don't know. I know there's crazy soccer leagues out there making who knows how much money. I don't know.
Well,
I'm pretty
honestly,
sure.
the NFL does well even compared to the world and other sports. And one thing too, I think here's the thing. Obviously, the finals is weird, where the finals just I think they got what like 5.8 million viewers,
One of
and
the games, yeah.
I know it happened because the Seattle Seahawks played a game like the day of or the day after or something, and that got like 11.6 million views. But one
I think they
thing
played
is,
the same day.
I think it was I think it was the same day. Um, the NBA plays so many more games, and there's so much more, watch time of that league that each game just needs to get less views to still be super profitable. That makes sense. So I bet when you take the overall view time of those leagues, they're pretty similar because there's 16 seasonal games for NFL. There's 72 for NBA. So I bet when you compare overall watch team for the whole season amongst the whole league, it's probably somewhat similar. But still, the fact is, way more people are just interested in watching a regular season football game than the NBA finals, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean that really put it to the test, right? Okay, well, because the NBA finals were always in the summer, and there's no football on it, so that's all there is to watch. So now people have to make a choice, and they could either watch, LeBron James, the best basketball player in the league, or they could watch Russell Wilson struggle to beat Kirk Cousins in a Week 5 regular season game.
Say, I wasn't gonna make any more Seahawks jokes. Austin did it. It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
I mean, the Seahawks won. So I mean, but I mean, people made their choice. People would rather watch the Seahawks than watch the Lakers, which is a more valuable team money wise than Seattle.
Yeah.
But so I mean.
We could go into a real deep dive on the problems of the NBA, but we're a football podcast. We only bring it up to point out that
the NFL's better.
The NFL's way better than the NBA. I hate to say it.
Yeah, and anyway, well,
we really went down a tangent there. I don't even know where to go after that.
I agree, but I do want to kind of okay. This may just be my opinion, but I feel like at this point in the season, we're going into week 14. At this point, we can pretty much make some really good predictions or estimates of who's making into the playoffs and who isn't.
Sure. Yeah.
Where I think, everyone's mind at this point is kind of transitioning, looking towards the playoffs. I mean, some teams have already clinched the playoffs. And I think our podcast will probably shift a lot more towards the playoffs too. But I wanted to pull up divisions because I still feel like there's a few divisions, NFC East included, that it's still close. It's still a toss-up. There's some exciting things that need to happen. So I think the divisions that are still, very undecided is obviously NFC West, obviously NFC East, but then we've got the Miami Dolphins and the Bills. The Dolphins are playing great. I mean, we were saying that a few weeks ago, but they still are. I mean, they're only one win behind the Bills. And, everyone's saying the Bills are top 5 teams in the league.
Yeah.
The Dolphins look good. The thing is, the Bills look good too. Their season was kind of start on a high note, dipped, and I feel like they're kind of right back up there. They're playing very well. So you're right. That's a really exciting divisional race.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and then the AFC South, we got a tie between the Titans and the Colts right now. That's a huge one. That's only one of two divisional ties.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's an interesting division for sure.
And
I don't
even
know. I'm going to pose
Okay.
this question actually to you right now. Which team do you think is more likely to win a playoff game, Tennessee or Indianapolis?
I'm going to say Tennessee. I mean, maybe it's just based off of recency. But the eye test as well. Look, I still, in my heart of hearts, like the roster and like the situation in Tennessee better than Indianapolis. I do.
Mm-hmm.
I like Ryan Tannehill on the Titans better than I like Philip Rivers, and I'll take Derrick Henry over Jonathan Taylor any day of the week. So I would still go Titans there.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's Titans, but I think it's really dependent on matchup because when the Titans get a bad matchup and their running game is shut down, it's over, dude. Like, if Derrick Henry isn't on point and getting 100 plus yards, the Titans have a losing record. So I think, obviously the numbers favor them and they're more than likely to be matched up against a team they'll do okay against. But comparing them straight across, Titans for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree. I mean, AFC North Steelers. I mean, man, they were undefeated. They're 2 games up above the Browns. It still feels pretty safe. I mean, they're going to the playoffs, no doubt about that for the Steelers. Is there any chance this AFC North becomes at all close? Who's going to win the division?
I could see it. Now that Pittsburgh's lost a game, it kind of breaks it wide open.
I think it's already broken it wide open in the sense that I was wanting to talk about this game today. Ben Roethlisberger is one of the weakest links on that team. He really,
I disagree.
Yeah, what are you seeing out of Ben that's making you say he's holding back?
let me look at his stats one sec.
I think Ben Roethlisberger is the difference of them being 11-1 right now when, being 500. I think Ben Roethlisberger is probably the most underrated quarterback in the league right now. Actually, I don't think he's been given the credit he deserves for having the Steelers where they're at, especially considering like they haven't been running the ball well. He's actually been carrying the offense because their running game has been just garbage.
He really hasn't been getting any notoriety at all, to be honest.
Yeah. I don't know if he's just one of those old quarterbacks we're sick of or not, but I don't know.
And I'm not saying same thing. I'm not saying he's absolute trash. And it's true the running game isn't that good, but I just feel like I just think he's old and maybe that's what it is. I don't think he's what he used to be. His pass rating is lower. Touchdowns to interceptions pretty good. He's 27 touchdowns to 7 interceptions on the season. So that's great. But I don't know. Maybe that's the point I'm trying to make is his personal career is decreasing. Obviously, he's getting off an injured season too. But I think it really comes down to the personnel in the defense that's helping the Steelers a ton, as well as receivers are, they're making it a lot easier for Ben. I don't know. I just think, I guess what I said was too harsh. He's having a decent season, but it's not as good as it used to be. And I think, if you were to give it the Alex Smith test, I think Alex Smith could do pretty close to as well, if not as well, as Ben Roethlisberger is on the Steelers.
That's a harder one for me to imagine. Actually, I don't even know what we would find honestly if you put Alex Smith in there.
I think it's
So,
just I think it's just because Ben is like the face of the Steelers and has been for so long. But
I mean, one thing that Ben Roethlisberger is actually doing better this year than he typically does is he's throwing a lot less picks than he has in lots of years past. But let me pull it up here. He's so yeah, like you said, he's got 7 picks. I mean, 2018 he threw 16. The year before 14, 13. He's probably going to end the year around 10. So in some ways, he's kind of cleaning his game up a little bit. So
yeah,
I
I don't know. When you look,
yeah
here's the thing. That is impressive, but the rest of his stats I don't think are as impressive when you look at his pass attempts, especially in the more recent games. He's in the upper 40s and lower 50s for pass attempts every game for the last like 6 or 7 weeks. And when you're making that many pass attempts, the numbers should be inflated. So it's good that obviously picks are really low, but same thing. I think if they just had a younger quarterback that was, I don't know, younger, more lively, they'd be doing better. And I think that's one thing is as he gets exhausted throughout the season and the team gets exhausted throughout the season, I can definitely see him losing more games.
yeah I you could be right. To be honest, I'm not sure. I do still think the Steelers are a well-rounded team. To answer my own question, it's hard to imagine the Browns take the division. A lot of things would have to go right for the Browns, and a lot of things would have to go bad for the Steelers for that to happen, and it
Yeah.
seems really unlikely to me. And then go ahead, Austin.
I can see the Steelers losing 2 more games. And if they were to do that, the Browns would have to win out because they play in Week 17. And so, I mean, as I can see the Browns winning out, they play the Ravens, and they play the Giants, and they play the Jets. And they'll probably beat the Jets, but they could lose to the Ravens, and they could even lose to the Giants. I don't see that happening, but it could happen. And they could win all 3. But yeah, I mean, that's the only scenario where they would take the division if the Steelers were to lose 2 more games and the Browns won out up until their Week 17, and then whoever won that game would then win the division. So the odds are not in the Browns' favor.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the Browns are a formidable team, and I was a little quick to bail on my early season prediction on them of being a good team and a playoff team that one could make a run. They could. They're playing really well.
And they're getting hotter. They're getting,
Yeah.
they're looking better the last couple of weeks too.
I agree. We were a little quick to bail, but that's why I don't want to be too quick to unbail because we've seen what they can be. It's not like they've been consistently great.
Yeah.
But my gosh, guys, can we stop for a second and realize the Cleveland Browns are 9-3 going into Week 14?
Yeah.
Like, this is incredible. If we have any Browns fans listening to this, because I know they're out there, they survived the long, long, long period of sadness. This is awesome. I think it's super cool that the Browns are 9-3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a great turnaround. It's fine. It's like finally, like the Browns aren't the laughing stock of the league, and it should give Jets fans hope that just 3 years ago the Browns were 0-16. So, I mean, things can turn around. It's possible. You don't have to suck. You can become a winning team in 3 years.
Yeah.
That's another thing that's great about this league, man.
Yeah.
You gotta love the NFL.
Well, that's one thing too. Do you guys think the Browns win a playoff game?
That really depends on who they play.
Yeah, it depends on seeding. Because if the season were to end today, the Browns I know there was one point. I don't know what it is right now, but they could have played the Chiefs. I think they were a 7 seed before this week or something like that. They would have been. And so if they had to play the Chiefs, I don't know if they could win that playoff game. But they could beat any other 2 division leaders. They could beat the Bills. I could see that being a great game.
That would be a good game.
They could, and then Tennessee. They've already beaten Tennessee just now. So, and that was a good game. It was, one way, one half, another way, another half, but they still won. They scored more points and they won. So, and they could beat the Colts any given Sunday. Yeah, they definitely could win a playoff game. I think the only team they couldn't beat is the Chiefs, because even if they played the Steelers, I think they could beat them.
I'm not so sure they could. I think actually, just on paper, their matchup against the Steelers would be even harder than the Chiefs, in my opinion. Just because this game we saw with the Titans, where Baker Mayfield threw for over 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, that's a complete outlier of how they've won games this season. They've won it with their running backs up until this game, and I don't expect this to be the norm going forward. And,
I don't either.
So I think the Steelers would be really, really tough with that defense, because even though the Steelers lost, they held the team to, I was checking the stats, hardly any running yards again. Like, the teams don't run on the Steelers ever, really, this season. So, but yeah, aside from that, I could see them beating anyone besides those 2 teams, or having a chance. Not that I would say that's what I would pick, but they have a shot to beat almost any other playoff contender in the AFC.
Yeah.
I don't want it to happen. I don't think it'll happen, but it would be cool if the Browns just made an awesome playoff run, made it to the the AFC championship,
cool.
Or even to the Super Bowl.
I even think it would be cool if they made it to the Super Bowl. That'd be sweet.
I think that would
awesome.
really revive all Browns fans. If they made it even just to the AFC championship, I mean, so many Browns fans would kind of come out of their graves, and
they deserve it, man. The Browns fans, look, for those of you who don't know, all 3 of us spent some time in Cleveland. We were there for a few months. Browns fans are there. They're not even hidden. I saw Browns flags. I saw stuff the whole time I was there. So, I mean, I think they deserve something great. I don't know. Again, I don't know if this is the year, and I'm still not the biggest Baker Mayfield truther out there, but I think they're going to be in the playoffs, and that's huge. If nothing else, if you go to the playoffs, look, that's so much better than you've had. You can be happy.
Oh, yeah. If it's not already, Baker Mayfield's jersey should be, one of the top selling, even if it's not him driving it. But I mean, just, you finally have had a quarterback that's been your quarterback for consecutive seasons. That's an accomplishment all on its own. So
that's one thing too. First off, to you listeners and everyone, if you just listen to Colin Cowherd, you probably hate Baker Mayfield and you dislike the Browns. But the rest of the NFL world, Baker's done some controversial things, but what open mouth NFL player hasn't. But I think Baker's matured a lot on and off the field in the last year to year and a half, and I think he still has a lot to work on. But I can see Baker, I don't know, I can see Baker at some point in his career making the Pro Bowl, because he's still a very young quarterback, and if the Browns organization continues to build around him, and especially coaching continues to improve and stuff, I think he might actually be, continue to blossom rather than just kind of be your average Baker Mayfield as of late.
Sure. I do want to say one thing before, I become a flip-flopper, which which happens. But because earlier in the podcast, I said if one thing, had to change about the Browns going forward, it should be the quarterback. And I still believe that because I think the Browns could be a better team if they had someone that was better at playing quarterback than Baker Mayfield. I don't think he's a top 15 quarterback, and if you don't have a top 15 quarterback, it's kind of hard to win consistently in the league. So, as I got to give Baker props, he's playing really well, and he is, not the quarterback Cleveland deserves, but the quarterback they need right now. And so I got to give him props, but still, I'm not going to say that Baker Mayfield is a savior or anything like that. I think he is above the standard of the Cleveland Browns, and right now that's just dandy.
Absolutely. All right, real quick, Austin, because I want to just do a quick litmus test with that, because with the Cleveland record, they're not drafting anyone high. So
sure,
I'm going to throw some potential, quarterbacks that could be moving teams this offseason and see who you would take over Baker Mayfield if you're in Cleveland.
First, before we do this, I got to say that Baker Mayfield will be the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns next year.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Okay, but if you were in charge, I'm going to throw names out there. Carson Wentz, do you take him over Baker Mayfield?
Oh, gee.
Just throw with the hardest one right off the bat.
That's the hardest one? I thought that was the easiest one to Austin.
I would actually say that Cleveland would be actually the perfect place for him to revive his career outside of Indianapolis.
I think Indianapolis is a good place for Carson Wentz, but
yeah, I would say that Carson Wentz is more talented than Baker Mayfield.
Just give us your answer, Austin.
That's all I'll say about that. No, if I was the GM of the Browns, I'm keeping Baker over Wentz. I mean, the contract and the talent. If I had a chance to move off Baker before I had to sign him to a big deal, and I could get Carson Wentz, I wouldn't take that. I would just keep Baker because he's been working for us. And Carson, I don't know what I'm getting with that contract.
It's true.
All right, good. Cam Newton.
I would take Baker, just because he's younger and is more accurate than Cam. So. Cam's body's breaking. He's never been that accurate. I would take Baker over Cam.
All right. Sam Darnold. Wow, what a slide that would be to replace Baker Mayfield with Sam Darnold.
I mean, the Browns could have taken him. They chose Baker over Darnold.
That would be them going back and changing. They're just
never mind.
Dude, that's such a Browns thing to do, though.
Oh man, I feel bad, but I want to know what your answer is though.
So if I was any team but Cleveland, I would take Darnold over Cleveland, but I think Baker's a better fit in Cleveland than Darnold. But I think Darnold's more talented. I think he's got better mechanics. He's a little bit more polished as a quarterback. I think he's just been dealt a bad hand with the Jets.
I like him. Okay, last one, and this one's a little bit less likely than the others to actually be moving teams. Possible though. Derek Carr.
Oh, I would take Derek Carr over Mayfield. Derek Carr became available.
I would too.
I would take Derek Carr. Yeah.
Here's what I'm realizing, and all these things, it might be really hard if you're the owner of the Browns to make the right decision in that case, because I kind of feel like I don't know. Cleveland Nation might rebel. Baker Mayfield's the one who brought hope.
I know,
and
they're
life
so
to
attached.
Cleveland football.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if I here's the real thing. Like, it wouldn't matter unless it was Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson. Those three. I wouldn't actually take anybody over Baker right now. I might as well just sign him.
Okay, wait.
Yeah.
I want to throw in a couple more that are kind of like not as likely to happen, but it's possible. Would you take Jameis Winston over Baker Mayfield?
No.
Okay, he said no, so I'm going to say that's an easy no for me. Easy
Okay,
no.
what about Matt Ryan?
Just based on age, I would take Baker.
Okay.
That was hard.
I would take a young Matt Ryan over Baker, but now Matt Ryan, no.
I would actually take Matt Ryan. I would make the change if I could. But that'd be hard, like I said, and that's in a vacuum though. That's in a vacuum of
Right.
not having to. All I care about is wins, losses, not public perception or
Yeah.
anything
Right,
like
yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah, if it's just based off who's better, who's worse, then it for me it'd be easy Darnold, actually. Just watching Baker, I don't want to say this because there's lots of quarterbacks that don't look like starting quarterbacks, franchise quarterbacks in the league right now. But to me, there's just something about him that doesn't quite do it for me.
What about last one? What about Ryan Fitzpatrick?
No.
Baker for
Baker.
sure.
Okay, this is kind of random, but another quarterback I was thinking about, but I don't think it's going to happen. But I want to ask you guys, do you think Teddy Bridgewater is going to be the starting quarterback for the Panthers in years to come?
I think he'll be the starting quarterback next year.
Yeah.
I don't think he lost his job this year.
No.
But he definitely hasn't solidified himself as the franchise guy. But Teddy's injured right now, is he not? Or I'm not gonna lie, I did not see the Panthers game. The Panthers have been kind of boring. No, the Panthers were on bye last week.
The Panthers are
Yeah,
on bye.
With Tampa Bay. I'd have to look that up. But
Panthers are 4-8 right now. I don't know. I could see them going after a guy if they're in a position to, because the Panthers roster-wise aren't terrible. I mean, I would say just plain roster-wise, they're somewhere in the middle of the pack. But I don't know. I could if Zach Wilson or Kyle Trask was there, which is possible if you are on your current course, they finish 6-10 or something, they could still be on the board. Go get them. I wouldn't mind that.
I could see that. I think even in that situation, I bet the Panthers would take the approach of letting them sit on the bench to start at least and have learn under Teddy Bridgewater. I think that's going to happen for just a prediction. I don't know for sure, but most quarterbacks not named Trevor Lawrence will probably have that, except for probably one other. Whoever goes to Jacksonville is probably going to be thrust into action as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't right now feel like Teddy Bridgewater is the long-term answer, but I'm not going to close the door and say he's not either.
Mm-hmm.
Teddy Bridgewater is interesting because he's won a lot of games. He was pretty good when he played Minnesota before the injury, and he played well in New Orleans. But now that New Orleans is playing well with Taysom Hill also, it kind of, and as bad as Teddy Bridgewater, I mean, he hasn't been playing terrible, but he hasn't been elevating the Panthers any.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of ruins his stock, and to see, is he a true franchise quarterback? And when you compare him to true franchise quarterbacks, he's not there. So you got to move off him at some point, because at this point there's just like I was saying, there's too much talent flowing into the league these days that you can't pass up on a guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Taysom Hill, by the way, got 2 passing touchdowns this last week. So he can do it. We can now officially say he can do it. But I still think, dude, he just fumbles like 2 or 3 times a game. And it's because he tries to run so much, I guess. But I don't know. It's definitely, when Drew Brees is healthy, he's going to take over right away. And I don't know. It's hard to see what they'll do based on 3 games of play from Taysom Hill.
Sure. I'm still pumping the brakes. They've beaten the Falcons twice and quarterbackless Broncos. So
Yeah.
I'm going to pump the brakes on that.
Bring that up. See, that's worse than anything. My gosh. Anyway, we only have 2 teams that have clinched their playoff spot, the Chiefs and the Saints. So far, so more teams yet to come. If I could ask you guys one last question, because I know we're running out of time. I don't want to make this a quick one. I don't want a whole lot of discussion.
Okay.
You guys will have to take a look, but if you pick your 3 wild card teams for each conference, just look at it real quick. Who you think will be those wild card teams? Maybe a current division leader takes one of those wild cards in your opinion. I just want to see where you guys are at going into week 14 with that. And while you're thinking about it, I'll start, because I was kind of thinking about this question while we were talking. I'll start at the AFC. I'm going to go with the Dolphins, the Browns, and I'm going to go with the Raiders to kind of right it a little bit and get back in there. And that leaves the Ravens and the Colts kind of looking out. I'll admit the Raiders pick, they haven't been looking great lately, so things will have to change for that to be the case, but I'm going to roll with that. And then in the NFC, of the 3 divisions that have teams that can qualify as wild card teams, so we can just delete the NFC East real quick. Bye. No, I'm just kidding. You know, it's actually possible that the NFC East might have someone. If the Giants and the Washington football team start winning a lot, well, they have to win.
They'd have to win out.
They'd have to win out. I don't see that happening. Anyway, who I'm going to go with, it's just picking which 2 out of the NFC West. I'm going to say at this point, the Rams and the Cardinals are wild card teams. Thomas, I just called your Seahawks at this point to win the division, man.
You also just admitted that you're going to be giving me, I'm pretty sure, a bottomless Rooter float.
I'm pretty sure I admitted that like 2 weeks ago. And then I got Tampa Bay taking the other wild card spot.
Okay. I'll go. I'm ready. So for AFC, I think it's Browns, Dolphins, and Raiders as well. I think the Raiders will bounce. I mean, they won this week, but I think
it felt almost like a loss.
Yeah, I really did. I think they'll bounce back into their normal ways where they're actually. I mean, the big thing for the Raiders is they've won big games against teams that are clearly better than them personnel-wise. And I think they'll continue to do that. So I got Browns, Dolphins, Raiders. NFC, I've got Rams, Buccaneers, and I'm going to stick with Vikings. I think it's really based on, Kyler's health with his shoulder, and, they're definitely downtrending. And at this point, I think, it could go either way. But to me, it's Cardinals are downtrending, Vikings are uptrending right now. So I'll stick with the uptrend this late in the season. So I think it's just going to be Rams, Bucs, Vikings.
I like that.
I was up in the air on that between the Vikings and the Cardinals. I'm a little bit more optimistic about the Cardinals, but I think I'm going to stick with the pick that I was going to make before you said that. the Vikings. I think the Vikings would be more interesting in the playoffs, honestly, actually, than the Cardinals. But yeah, in the NFC, yeah, I'm actually going to go Seahawks, Bucks, Vikings. I think the Rams will win that division. I think at this point in the season, defense is more important. Plays a bigger role than offense. Like good defenses. I mean, and I think the Rams are one of those defenses.
The Rams have the best secondary in the league.
Yeah. And then in the AFC, I'm going to differ from you guys on one. So I got the Dolphins and the Browns as the wild card, but I'm going to actually include the Colts. I think the Colts get in before the Raiders. I think the Colts are actually a little bit more buttoned up, I guess. I think they play more sound football, and I think I don't know, the Raiders, I don't trust the Raiders at this point in December. I've seen them be good in September, October, and them crash and burn a little too many times for me to want to put my faith in them getting better than 9-7 at this point. So I'm going to go Colts over Raiders for the AFC.
That's a good pick. After I said Raiders, I almost immediately wanted to flip to the Ravens, actually. But this is a good opportunity to tell our listeners, just so you guys are aware. If you're looking for, like, the next-gen stats, deep dive, like, calculated picks, that's not what we do. We look at it, we go with our gut feeling, and we just say it, okay? That's what we do on this show.
Yeah. And honestly, analytics is great and all. They're probably more right than, I don't even know to look into it. But, I mean, I trust my eyes.
Yeah.
So, but
exactly.
over any analytic.
We're just three friends talking about football, so we can make bold claims and not feel bad about
You can
it.
listen to us or not. I mean,
we reserve the right to come back next week and pretend that we never said that and talk like we had never said
well,
it. Like,
we're going to hold each other accountable. But,
exactly.
In all good fun. What was I going to say? Never mind. Move on.
All right, let's move on to closing this podcast up for the week. It was a great one. I think this besides our very first episode ever, this is our record podcast length. Thanks for sticking around. You guys are awesome. We really appreciate those people that have been listening on a consistent basis. It's fun to just see some consistency and see some people are enjoying our conversation and the content we're putting it out. Thank you. If you haven't yet, like, subscribe, turn on notifications, check out our YouTube channel that is going to really explode with new content soon. And have a good week.
Later.